Hey everyone, my name's Jaycee Carter, and for our presentation at the end of this year, I decided to do mine on my observation project because not only was it very interesting to do, but it was something that would benefit not only me, but the people I work with and the people who call in to where I work. So for my observation project, the research question that I chose was, what are the demographics of the people calling into the center? And the center is referencing the Advising and Orientation Center on campus because I work there as a receptionist, and I've been working there for approximately 2 months, I think. Not exactly sure. It's been really fun, but something that has arisen during the time that I've worked there is we noticed that a lot of people end up calling into the wrong place because the advising center, despite its name, is only advising for undeclared students and very specific other students, such as if they have missed an appointment with their advisor in the past, they can't make their own and they'll have to call us in, along with some people having 2 advisors, but the majority of people who do come to us are undeclared students. So I chose to do my observation from April 1st to April 4th. And I did it from 2:45 to 5 p.m. and then on other days I did 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. I just did my normal working schedule, but instead of just answering the calls, I just jotted down the important information, such as what college the student is in, such as the College of Business, College of Arts and Sciences, etc., how many calls I got from them, and if they came to the correct place or the incorrect place. Here's the chart that I made and I filled out during the time I was observing the phone calls and walk-ins at the advising center. So there's the different colleges. We have business, arts and sciences, health and sciences, undeclared, other, and parents. For other, it is basically just a bunch of other categories mixed together that I didn't feel like had enough information to be their own category, such as teachers calling in for students, advisors calling in for students, and even just students from other colleges that didn't have enough information to become their own separate section. So for business, there was 4 total people that called in during the time. Half came to the correct place and half did not. For arts and sciences, there was 3 that came, and 2 came to the correct place and 1 did not. Health and sciences, there were 6 total and none came to the correct place. And then for undeclared, there was 3 and they all came to the correct place because it is the center and advising for undeclared students. And then for other, there was 5 total, 3 came to the correct place and 2 did not. And finally, parents, there was 1 parent and they did come to the correct place. Here is the first theme that I found from the observation that I did at the center. It was that most callers came from the Health and Sciences College, which was obvious from the last chart that I made, though I had noticed that it might be not as correct as I would think it would have been because the timing was a little later into the semester, so a lot of people have already called to make appointments with their advisor, and so there's less people who would call in, because we noticed previously to me doing this experiment, I would say, that a lot of people came from the business center, but also that would change because if in the past a lot of people came from the business center, that means they have already scheduled to make their appointments and they won't need to call back. The second theme that I got from observing was that a lot of students do not know that the different colleges exist for their majors. Personally, I didn't know much about it until I started working there, because for me it was different. My advisor was actually in the building with us, even though I am not an undeclared student because of my scholarship, so I knew a little bit more than like the average student would about this. One student actually directly said to me that she didn't know what a college was in this context. We were talking and I was like, oh, do you know what college you're in? Or do I need to like help you find it so I can send you over there? And she was basically just like, oh, I'm at App State, thinking that I'm referring to the university as a college. So that really opened my eyes to be like, wow, people don't know what it is, and it's such an important thing to know because it is part of your education. My coworker, who's also a student worker, also mentioned to me while I was doing the project, we were talking a little bit about stuff that I can include, and she mentioned that she also didn't know what a college was in that context until she started working there, and it was kind of just eye-opening to see. The final theme that I got from the observing was that student workers at the Advising and Orientation Center are unable to be fully effective at their jobs due to the software that we use. This mainly came up because I had a conversation with one of the advisors on the same floor as me, and we were basically talking, and she was telling me about how she had gotten some rude calls from a student and his family about how he had been turned away by someone at the center, and we were all very confused because that's not something that any of us would do, especially in a rude way as he was implying. So we were looking into it, and we were typing in the information into the software that we use on AppleNet, and we noticed that the stuff that I would see when I would type in stuff, we would see one of the advisors, and maybe he had 2 or 3 that he could go to. But whenever my supervisor would type it into her software, she got something on DegreeWorks. We're not allowed to look at other students' information on there. She would be able to see the multiple advisors listed on there. So it would kind of make it unfair for us, and it would kind of make it unfair for the student because we were unable to get them help, and they would see it as a negative way, as if we were sending them away, when in reality we weren't very sure about their particular situation. Here's the conclusion for my observation project. I noticed that most of the calls came from the Health and Sciences College, and out of all of those calls, all 6 of them were to the incorrect place. The next thing that I got from the project was that we need to find a way to inform students of colleges in the advising context. I was thinking it over with my coworkers, and we were all talking, and we were like, how can we get the information out? And perhaps we thought whenever a student fully declares their major and they get an email from that major, maybe they should include the information about the specific advising for that major, including maybe their email, their phone number, and things like that, so the students will have an easy way to find that and get in contact with whoever they need. And that last thing is that we could look into a way to help better the service from student workers. Although it isn't our fault that the software doesn't show us all of the information that we need, I was thinking that maybe we could ask someone to let us have access to the same kinds of thing as our supervisor, because we are the ones answering the call the majority of the time, and she has her own things to do. So it would make it easier not only for her, we wouldn't have to keep interrupting her work, but it would make it easier for us to easily help the students. When it comes to the sociological impact and the whole reason I did this observation project in the first place, the main reason was to find a way to better our services. Because when we are spending a lot of time on the incorrect calls, sending them over to the right place and making sure that they're getting the help they need and are in the correct place that they need to be going, it makes us take away time from helping the people who need to be calling us, like the students who are undeclared and can't get help anywhere else, or the students who physically cannot make their own appointments because they had missed one before and the system has locked them. Getting rid of the calls that don't really need to be going to us would give us more time to be helpful to the people who do need us. And that would not only make it easier for us, because we wouldn't have to be confused if they're in the right place and if we're sending them to the right place, but it would also make it easier for the students, because the students who are calling the incorrect place wouldn't have to be calling multiple places and getting transferred and being confused if they're going to receive the help they need. And it would make it easier for the students who actually need to call us, because they would be able to get to us quicker and be able to get the help that they need quicker. For the last part of this presentation is going to be talking about the limitations that I noticed while doing this and while trying to get the answer to my research question about the demographics. The main limitation, I would say, was that it was too short of a period to really get a direct, conclusive answer for the question. Because 3 days isn't enough data to really fill out and make sure that it is more so this demographic rather than this. It's from this college rather than this college. But it does give us like a little point in the right direction to see maybe it is this college and we should perhaps reach out to them and maybe make them send out an email to their students so they can have the correct contact information. Also, the time period of observation was a little later into the semester, so a lot of students have already made appointments with their advisor and they've already scheduled everything that they need to schedule, so they don't need to contact us because they've already done everything and there's no reason for them to. So this is the end of my presentation, but I just wanted to throw in some things to wrap it all together and talk about my experience doing it. So I had a really fun time doing this, not only from the plain sociological way of it's just interesting to watch people, listen to people, see how they interact and react to things, but also from the way that I'm going to be using this information to better my workplace and our services, along with just informing students on ways to make it easier to get help. Like for the second theme, I noticed that a lot of students didn't know the different colleges for their majors and their advising centers and things like that. And have been having the issue of students calling the incorrect place since I started working there. So it was interesting to see, well, there's actually a reason for that, and it's not just students being negligent, it's the fact that they were informed about it. But it also made us come up with ideas to maybe better it. Like my advisor brought up the idea of contacting different advising centers to see if they'll send out maybe something like a mass email to their students about their contact information for their advising center, or like even an email being sent to the student after they've been declared with the contact information that they need. So I just wanted to throw in that little part at the end because it was such a fun experience. And I just want to say bye everyone, have a great summer. I really enjoyed this class and enjoyed interacting with you all.